Hello students, my name is Dr. Alice Mani. I will be imparting lessons on Business Law, course 306. I am the resource person for Mahatma Gandhi National Council of Rural Education. This is part of the BBA Rural Management course. This unit, that is chapter 4, is titled Consumer Protection Act 2019. And this will be covered as 4 video lessons. The first video lesson will look at the basic features of the Consumer Protection Act 2019 and the rights of consumers. The second video lesson will cover Consumer Protection Council Rules 2020 and the mediation proceedings. The third video lesson will cover the consumer redressal mechanism. The fourth video lesson will discuss the Central Consumer Protection Authority. Also, in the fourth module, we will learn the advantages and limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019. We will cover the fourth video lesson of the fourth unit, which is Central Consumer Protection Authority in this video lesson. The short form is CCPA, Central Consumer Protection Authority. You should remember the short form also, as I will be using this short form frequently in this video lesson. So let us go ahead and understand the topic in details. I have structured this lesson in the following way. This lesson will cover 3 broad topics. The first will be the objectives of Consumer Protection Authority or CCPA. The second objective of this video lesson is to brief about the advantages of Consumer Protection Act 2019. The third objective of this video lesson will be to tell you the limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now, why we have to discuss the advantages and limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019? Do you know the reason? Can you tell me why? We know that the old Consumer Protection Act 1986 is changed to the new Consumer Protection Act 2019 after 33 long years. That is more than 3 decades. Lot of changes happened in all our day-to-day activities. After this video lesson, you will understand how the new Consumer Protection Act 2019 is reframed to inculcate these changes. We know that if there are advantages, there will be limitations also. When we learn the disadvantages, you will come across some areas where there are some amendments required for this act to make it more effective and consumer friendly. This sounds interesting to learn this video lesson. I know that, right? Do you agree with me? At the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand the basic structure of Central Consumer Protection Authority or CCPA, its advantages, objectives. Similarly, advantages and limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019. So let us understand this topic, which has got a lot of practical relevance in our personal and official dealings. The Central Consumer Protection Authority is being constituted under Section 10, Subsection 1 of the Consumer Protection Act 2019. The objective is to widen the scope in addressing consumer concerns. I have mentioned in the last video lesson as a passive reference about this topic, that is, the Central Consumer Protection Authority or CCPA. This Central Consumer Protection Authority was not there as per the old Consumer Protection Act 1986. Thus, this topic will also be covered as an advantage of the new Consumer Protection Act 2019. So, that is the importance of this topic. As the name indicates, the objective for setting up Central Consumer Protection Authority is to protect the rights and privileges of consumers as individuals or groups. I think you are already aware of that. Consumer groups can file their grievances with the consumer commissions for common interest. For example, if a private bank cheated its depositors, they can file a joint complaint. They need not file individual complaints. This will give them more bargaining power and their arguments will be stronger. We can come across many instances in our day-to-day media reports about consumer groups fighting for their rights. The Central Consumer Protection Authority has been given a general mandate to regulate matters relating to violation of consumer rights, unfair trade practices, and misleading advertisements. Thus, Central Consumer Protection Authority is giving the power to protect, promote, and enforce the rights of consumers as a class or a group. So, let us look at the objectives of Central Consumer Protection Authority now. The first objective is to inquire or investigate into matters relating to violations of consumer rights or unfair trade practices, either on a complaint received or on a direction from the central government. For example, in the case of a misleading advertisement, central government will directly give instructions for appropriate action. The second objective is to recall goods or withdrawal of services that are dangerous, hazardous, or unsafe. We have examples of products withdrawn from the market as it was unsafe and hazardous for human consumption. The third objective is to pass an order for refund for the price of goods or services thus recalled. We have many examples of vehicle manufacturers recalling some vehicles or some models when some technical issues are reported. The fourth objective is to impose a penalty up to Rs 10 lakh with imprisonment up to 2 years on the manufacturer or endorser of false and misleading advertisements. The penalty may go up to Rs 50 lakh with imprisonment up to 5 years for every subsequent offence committed by the same manufacturer or endorser. This also we can give any number of examples from the hospitality, aviation or insurance sector. Especially during COVID-19 pandemic, some health insurance companies were not ready to give hospital expenses claimed by policyholders. Some policyholders approached the consumer courts and got a verdict in their favor. It also got lot of media attention. The fifth objective is to ban the endorser of a false or misleading advertisement from making endorsement of any products or services in the future for a period that may extend to 1 year. This ban may extend up to 3 years in every subsequent violation of the Act. This also we can take the examples of some Ayurvedic products which celebrities endorsed and they claimed so many health benefits and later asked by the central government not to sell their products. Similarly, some health clubs and fitness centers claimed weight loss in 5 days or 10 days, and they advertised and promoted with these false claims. But due to health reasons, the central government has asked the companies not to sell these products. The sixth objective is to file complaints for violation of consumer rights or unfair trade practices before the Consumer Disputes Redressal Commissions. Now, with the media publicity and the power of social media, consumers are increasingly aware of their rights and filing complaints at the appropriate forums for necessary action. Now, let us look at the advantages of Consumer Protection Act 2019. This is the second objective of this video lesson. Consumers can file a complaint from anywhere in the world electronically. This is possible even if you are on a holiday or from your residence or from your workplace or when you are traveling or anywhere. This is possible 24/7, 365 days. This we were not able to think of this privilege with the earlier Consumer Protection Act 1986. The second advantage is that there is no fees for filing cases up to rupees 5 lakh. This makes it possible for all types of consumers to file their grievances at appropriate forums. Also, they are aware of their rights and privileges from social media, government notifications, media reports, etc. The third advantage is the facility to appear for the hearing via video conferencing. This makes it possible to attend hearing without physical presence. This will reduce the financial burden of consumers. The fourth advantage is the provision for product liability by including the product manufacturer, product service provider, or product seller for any claim for compensation. This will make them careful in their official communications, advertisements, press conferences, media reports, etc. The next important aspect is the punishment for sale of adulterated goods. The punishments for violation can be as follows. The court may, in case of first conviction, suspend any license issued to the person for a period of 2 years. And in the case of second or subsequent conviction, the license will be cancelled forever. For example, a food operator, he is getting his license cancelled. This will make all players to be careful in their dealings for the fear of consequences. As per the new law, that is the Consumer Protection Act 2019, state and district commissions can review orders passed by consumer commissions. This privilege was not there with the old Act 1986. The next important advantage is the facility for mediation with consumer commissions. We know that proper mediation can avoid some serious conflicts and legal actions to a certain extent. Then the next advantage is the provision of Central Consumer Protection Council as an advisory body. We have already learned in detail about the role of Central Consumer Protection Authority and its authority in protecting consumers' rights as a group or individually. The next advantage is the mandatory requirement for e-commerce retailers to display warranty, exchange, and refund details in their websites. This is helpful to all of us as we depend on e-retailers for our grocery, food, travel assistance and whatnot these days. Everything we do online. All the terms and conditions of sale are clearly provided in their websites, as we are not doing face-to-face deal. Additionally, sellers must also display the country of origin, which will enable the consumer to make an informed decision at the pre-purchase stage. Also, the e-retailers must specify the background about sellers. This will provide us with the extra privileges and the power to file complaints in case of grievances later. Now, let us look at the third and last objective of this video lesson, that is the limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019. It is found that consumer counsels are slow in dispensing cases and are not cost effective as envisaged when we introduce this new act. Therefore, people are gradually losing faith in the consumer redressal commissions and councils. Already they lost faith in the legal system of our country. Moreover, sometimes lawyers are involved in the cases and thus making the proceedings more expensive, cumbersome and technical. Another limitation is the poor infrastructure of consumer courts. This is another hindrance for speedy resolution of disputes. Another limitation is the maintenance of poor records and the shortage of manpower for speedy disposal of cases. Moreover, the consumer courts are not fully computerized. It is also reported that there is delay in filling vacancies at the consumer councils, adding to the shortage of manpower. This resulted in consumers losing faith in the consumer courts. The last limitation is the lack of awareness among consumers about their rights. Thus, we can conclude that consumer councils are not as effective as envisaged by the new Consumer Protection Act 2019. Our learning wouldn't be complete if we don't assess what we have learned. So here I am giving one activity for you. Make a comparative study of old and new advertisements of any company and write about how these advertisements have changed with the new Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now that we have reached the end of this lesson, I hope that you have learned about the Central Consumer Protection Authority, the advantages and limitations of Consumer Protection Act 2019. I hope that you got a good insight on the topics we discussed in this video lesson. To conclude, we have covered 16 video lessons covering the entire business law syllabus. I hope that you enjoyed and learned the topics we discussed, and it was a good experience personally for me to share the knowledge with you. To shorten that, I want to tell you that we have covered 4 chapters. That is the entire business law syllabus. That is right from the Contract Act, the Introduction to Law, Business Law, the Sources of Business Law, the Sale of Goods Act, the Consumer Protection Act, the various government acts that includes gratuity, provident funds, the most important topic, goods and services tax, all this Food Control Authority of India, all these topics we have explained as different video lessons. So I was able to cover the entire business law syllabus in 16 video lessons. If you have any feedback or any suggestions, please reach out to me. This is the last video lesson, and I conclude with the saying that I can see you in future with another subject, another platform. Thank you.